Welcome to the Revenge Diary. You know, there are moments in life that split your existence into before and after. Moments so quiet, so ordinary on the surface, that you almost miss their magnitude until you're standing in the wreckage they leave behind. For me, that moment happened on a Sunday night, November 6th, 2022. I was in my apartment in Asheville, North Carolina, folding laundry like any other weekend. The mountain air was crisp that evening, and I had the windows cracked just enough to hear the distant hum of traffic on I-40. It was one of those peaceful Sunday evenings where you feel grateful for the simple rhythm of ordinary life. And then my phone buzzed. It was a group message from my parents, my Aunt Melissa, my younger brother Tyler, 4 people who had shaped my entire world reduced to profile pictures in a chat thread. The message read, "We've been talking and we think it's best you step away for now. There's been too much tension lately and we all need some space." That was it. No context, no explanation, just a verdict, a family vote. 3-0. "Claire, you're out." And then, and I'll never forget this part, Aunt Melissa reacted with a thumbs-up emoji. As if they just decided where to go for dinner. I stood there in my living room, holding a sock that I'd been about to fold, staring at my phone screen. The words weren't computing. It felt like looking at a text message meant for someone else, in a language I didn't quite understand. My first instinct wasn't anger, it was confusion. What tension? What had I done? When had they talked? And why did this feel like a decision that had been made about me, but without me? But you know what? I surprised myself. Instead of calling, instead of demanding explanations, instead of fighting back, I took a breath and typed, "Understood. I'll respect that and I'll step away from the family fun too." I hit send, closed my phone, and went back to folding laundry. That night, I made one more decision. I logged into our shared family emergency fund and withdrew my contribution. All of it. Every single cent I'd put in over the years, $61,350. They had no idea what they'd just triggered. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have a quick favor to ask. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories reach. And if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We drop new videos every single day. Now, let's get back to the story. My name is Claire Jennings. I'm 33 now, but this story really begins when I was much younger, growing up in a blue-collar neighborhood just outside Erie, Pennsylvania. I grew up on a street lined with modest ranch houses, each with a driveway just wide enough for one car and a postage stamp front yard. Our house was the yellow one with the perpetually broken front step that my dad kept saying he'd fix next weekend. He worked HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, which meant his schedule was feast or famine. Summer and winter were busy. Spring and fall, we ate a lot of ramen. Mom was a substitute teacher, which sounds stable until you realize substitute teachers only get called when someone else is sick. Some months she'd work every day. Others, she'd sit by the phone waiting for it to ring. We weren't poor exactly, but we were what you might call creatively resourceful. We shopped clearance racks exclusively. Our vacations were day trips to Presque Isle State Park with packed lunches. Christmas gifts came from the layaway section at Kmart, and there was always that nervous energy around December. Would Dad get enough emergency heating calls to make the holiday special? But here's the thing, I was obsessed with making it work. Even as a kid, I was the one with the spreadsheets. While Tyler was playing video games or building forts, I was in my room with a calculator and a notebook, trying to figure out how to make our family's money stretch further. I remember being 12 years old, sitting at our kitchen table with bills spread out like a puzzle, color-coding them by due date. Mom found me there one evening and said, "Claire, honey, this isn't your job." But it felt like it was. It felt like if I didn't keep track, if I didn't plan, things would fall apart. Maybe that should have been a red flag. By high school, I had my entire future mapped out. I graduated a semester early, earned a full academic scholarship to UNC Chapel Hill, and dove headfirst into finance and economics. While my classmates were figuring out their majors, I was already planning my career trajectory. Graduate summa cum laude, get my financial planning certification, work for a respected firm, build a life of stability that my family had never quite achieved. And I did it. By 25, I was a licensed financial planner working for Taylor and Associates, a boutique firm in Charlotte that specialized in helping middle-class families build generational wealth. Ironic, right? I don't tell you this to brag. I tell you because it matters for what comes next. Because when my family hit their roughest patch in years, I wasn't just Claire the daughter or Claire the sister. I was Claire the financial expert. Claire the one who'd made it out. Claire the family success story. Which meant when everything started falling apart in 2019, they turned to me. It started with Tyler. He was 28 then, working construction in Erie, living paycheck to paycheck like so many people in our hometown. In March of 2019, he totaled his car, hit a patch of black ice on Route 90 and slid into a guardrail. The car was a write-off, and without it he couldn't get to job sites. No car meant no work. No work meant no money for a new car. It was a vicious cycle. Then, in June, Aunt Melissa's husband Jack died suddenly of a heart attack. Jack was only 54, and Melissa was completely unprepared. They'd been married for 26 years but never had children, and Jack had handled all their finances. She didn't even know where their insurance policies were, let alone how to navigate widow's benefits or funeral costs. At 52, she was suddenly alone in every sense of the word. And then, the final blow, Dad nearly lost the house. He'd missed 2 mortgage payments during a particularly slow stretch of work, and the bank sent a foreclosure notice. This was the house I'd grown up in. The yellow house with the broken step. The place where Mom still hung my high school graduation photo in the hallway. 3 crises, 1 family, and everyone was looking at me. So I did what I thought a good daughter, a good sister would do. I pitched a solution. I proposed creating a shared family emergency fund. Something we could all contribute to, proportionally based on our incomes, that would be there for exactly these kinds of situations. I'd set it up legally, make it transparent, ensure everyone had access when they needed it. I presented it like the financial planner I was, professional, organized, fair. I created a spreadsheet showing how much each of us would contribute monthly. I researched the best high-yield savings accounts. I even drafted a simple agreement outlining how withdrawals would work. What I didn't tell them was that I planned to fund nearly 70% of it myself. Not because I had to, because I wanted to, because I truly believed, that family meant helping each other rise, not just survive. I told them I was putting in my fair share, based on income ratios, but I never specified the exact amounts. What I did was set up the fund with everyone making their contributions through separate transfers, so they could see their own deposits but not necessarily track everyone else's exact amounts in real time. The fund started with $25,000 in contributions from everyone combined. But what I didn't tell them was that I was also making additional anonymous transfers that I called interest bonuses or investment returns. Little deposits here and there that made the fund grow faster than it should have based on our contributions alone. Over 3 years, those bonuses added up to $61,350 of my own money. They thought we were all just really good at saving together. And you know what? For 3 years, it worked beautifully. Tyler used fund money to buy a reliable used truck and get back to work. When he got his first steady contract, he started making regular contributions, small ones but consistent. Aunt Melissa used it to cover Jack's funeral expenses and bridge the gap until his life insurance came through. Later, when she needed minor surgery, the fund covered her copays. Dad used it to catch up on the mortgage and make some long-overdue repairs to the house. That broken front step finally got fixed in 2020 thanks to fund money and Dad's labor. It felt like we were building something together. A safety net. A foundation. The kind of financial security I'd dreamed of having when I was 12 years old, color-coding bills at the kitchen table. But there was always this underlying tension I couldn't quite name. See, I was the first in our family to go to college. The first to leave Erie. The first to wear business suits and talk about investment portfolios and 5-year plans. And while I never meant it as a criticism of their choices, I think they took it that way. Aunt Melissa used to say I was too serious whenever I'd suggest budgeting tools or talk about retirement planning. Tyler would joke that I was a corporate robot when I'd offer to help him set up a savings account. And Mom would just quietly change the subject whenever I'd try to share financial advice. There were little comments over the years. Must be nice to afford organic groceries. Not all of us can just pick up and move to the big city. Some of us have to live in the real world. I told myself they didn't mean it. That they were proud of me, even if they couldn't always show it. That the tension was just typical family dynamics, nothing more serious than sibling rivalry or generational differences. But looking back now, I think they resented me long before that November night. Not for what I'd done wrong, but for what I'd done right. For getting out. For building a life that looked nothing like theirs. For having solutions to problems they weren't even sure they wanted to solve. The beginning of the end started 3 weeks before that group message. It was October 15th, 2022, and I was on a video call with Mom and Dad, our weekly check-in that had become routine since COVID. I'd been watching the family fund balance, and I'd made a decision. I needed to address their spending patterns. Not to cut them off, never that, but to set some boundaries around how the fund was being used. Here's why. Tyler had just bought a $900 drone. A drone. While he was 2 months behind on rent and had borrowed fund money for emergency expenses just the month before. When I asked him about it on our family group chat, he said he deserved nice things too, and that I wouldn't understand because I had plenty of money. Melissa had borrowed $3,000 from the fund for what she called emergency pet surgery for her cat. But her Instagram stories that week showed her gambling in Las Vegas, posting pictures of slot machines and expensive dinners. When I gently asked about it, she said the trip was comped by the casino and got defensive about me monitoring her life. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. Tired of feeling like the family ATM. Tired of watching my financial support get treated as an entitlement rather than a gift. Tired of being the responsible one while everyone else got to be spontaneous and careless. So on that October call, I told Mom and Dad, I'm concerned about how we're using the family fund. It's supposed to be for real emergencies, but lately it feels like it's being treated as free money. We need to be more careful about withdrawals, or there won't be anything left when we actually need it. Dad was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Claire, we're all adults here. We know what emergencies are. Mom's face tightened. Are you saying we're being irresponsible with our own family money? No, I'm just saying we should probably have clearer guidelines about. Guidelines? Tyler's voice came through the speaker with an edge I hadn't heard before. He'd apparently been listening from the background. So now you want to police how we spend? The conversation got uncomfortable fast. I tried to explain that I just wanted to protect what we'd built together, but every word seemed to make it worse. 2 days later, Tyler posted on Facebook, tired of people who think having money makes them the boss of everyone else. Real family trusts each other. Melissa shared it within an hour, adding 3 fire emojis and a comment. Some people forget where they came from. I screenshot the post. Not to use against them, but because I had this sinking feeling it was going to matter later. And then came that Sunday night. November 6th, 2022. The group message, the vote, the thumbs up emoji. When I said I'd step away from the family fund, I wasn't bluffing or making an empty threat. That night, I logged into the account and transferred my entire contribution, $61,350, into a new trust fund under my name. I didn't touch their portions, I didn't close the account, I just walked away. But here's what they didn't know. What none of them had ever asked about or bothered to understand. The family fund was just the tip of the iceberg. For the past 3 years, I'd been quietly managing their lives in ways they never saw, ways they never even knew to look for. My parents' house, the one Dad almost lost in 2019. I'd been paying the property taxes through a proxy LLC since 2020. Every year, $3,400 that kept them from getting another foreclosure notice. I'd been making their mortgage payments directly to the bank for over 2 years, ever since Dad's third missed payment threatened foreclosure. They thought the bank had just worked out a payment plan with them. Tyler's student loans from his 2 semesters at community college. He'd defaulted on them in 2021, and his credit was tanking. I'd been making payments directly to the loan servicer to bring them current and keep paying them off. $18,000 in debt that would have destroyed his credit for years. Aunt Melissa's medical debt from Jack's final hospital stay. I'd been paying it off in installments during COVID by calling the hospital billing department and making anonymous payments toward the balance. She thought the hospital had written it off as charity care. Really, She'd gotten lucky having a niece who couldn't stand to watch her suffer. Tyler's car insurance. I'd been auto-paying it for 2 years to keep his registration current because he kept forgetting and getting pulled over. I'd call his insurance company, say I was making a payment on his behalf as a family member, and pay over the phone. Melissa's credit card debt. I'd been making anonymous payments online to keep her from bankruptcy. I was the invisible safety net beneath their entire lives. The financial guardian angel they never knew they had. And I never told them. Not because I wanted to hold it over them, but because I thought that's what love looked like, giving without needing to be seen, protecting without needing credit, being the foundation that holds everything together, even when no one notices the foundation is there. Until the people you're protecting decide you're the problem. After I withdrew from the family fund, I didn't announce what else I was walking away from. I didn't send a list of everything I'd been paying for. I didn't make threats or ultimatums, I just stopped. I canceled the automatic property tax payments through my LLC. I stopped making their mortgage payments to the bank. I stopped covering Tyler's insurance and student loan payments. I let Melissa's credit card bills and any remaining medical payments become her own responsibility again. And then I waited. By January 2023, the dominoes started falling. The family fund account was nearly empty because no one else had been making regular contributions. They thought it was just our shared savings growing through good investments, but really, I'd been the one quietly adding thousands each month to keep it healthy. Without those deposits, their withdrawals had drained it dry. Tyler was the first to notice when he tried to transfer money for his rent and got an insufficient funds message. Dad got a notice from the county about overdue property taxes, $3,400 he had no idea he owed. He called me, confused. "Claire, there must be some mistake. We haven't gotten a tax bill in 3 years." The mortgage company started sending past due notices after I stopped making the monthly payments. Dad couldn't understand why the bank was suddenly demanding money when he thought they'd worked out some kind of payment deferment plan years ago. Melissa got a call from a debt collector about medical bills she thought had been written off. Tyler's car got pulled over for expired registration, and when he called his insurance company, they told him the policy had been canceled for non-payment. His student loan servicer started calling about missed payments on loans he thought were somehow being handled. One by one, the support systems I'd built around their lives evaporated, and suddenly they were facing the financial reality they'd been living in all along. They just hadn't known I was shielding them from it. I didn't gloat. I didn't even feel vindicated. Mostly, I felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that they'd pushed away the person who was holding them up. Sad that they'd never even noticed all the ways I'd been showing up for them until I stopped. In April 2023, Melissa sent me a text. "Claire, we need to talk. There's been some confusion. Your father got some notices about taxes and mortgage payments, and Tyler says his car insurance got canceled somehow, and there are medical bills coming back that we thought were taken care of. Do you know anything about this?" I read it 3 times before responding. "No confusion, Melissa. I stepped away from all family financial matters just like you asked. I thought that's what you wanted when you voted to have me step away for now." She never replied. In May, Mom called me. It was the first time we'd spoken since that November night, and I could hear in her voice that she'd been crying. "Claire," she said, "I don't think we understood what we were asking for. When we said step away, we didn't mean. We didn't realize you were involved in so many things. Your dad's really struggling with these tax bills, and Tyler's having problems with his car and loans, and Melissa says there are medical bills that came back." And I let her finish. Then I said gently, "Mom, I was never trying to control anyone. I was never trying to be above you or better than you. I was trying to hold us together. But I can't hold up people who resent being held." There was a long silence. Then she said, "We didn't know, Claire. We didn't know you were paying for all those things." "You never asked," I said. "But that's okay. You don't need me to do those things. You managed before I was helping, and you'll manage now." Another silence. Then, can we fix this?" I thought about it for a long moment. I thought about forgiveness and family and second chances. I thought about going back to being the invisible safety net, the unacknowledged foundation. "I don't think so, Mom," I said finally. "Not the way it was. That wasn't healthy for any of us." We ended the call politely, but we both knew something fundamental had shifted. You can't unknow what you know. You can't unfeel what you felt. So what did I do with the money I reclaimed? The $61,350 from the family fund, plus the thousands I was no longer spending each month on their various expenses. For the first time in years, I spent it on myself. I renovated my apartment in Asheville, replaced the old laminate with hardwood floors, upgraded to granite countertops, bought the expensive mattress I'd been putting off for 3 years because it seemed wasteful when I was budgeting for everyone else's emergencies. I took a 2-week vacation to Italy, something I'd dreamed about since college but never allowed myself because what if Tyler needed car repairs? What if Dad fell behind on the mortgage again? What if Melissa had another medical crisis? I bought a reliable, beautiful car, a Honda CR-V that I paid for in cash instead of financing. No more driving my 10-year-old sedan with the rattling exhaust because every spare dollar was going into the family safety net. I started eating at nice restaurants without calculating whether that $30 meal could have covered someone's utility bill. I bought clothes that weren't on clearance. I got my hair done at a real salon instead of the budget chain I'd been using to keep my expenses low. It sounds selfish when I say it like that, but for the first time in my adult life, I was living like someone who earned a financial planner's salary instead of someone supporting 4 other adults on that same salary. And you know what? It felt incredible. Not because I suddenly became materialistic, but because I realized how much of my own life I'd been sacrificing without anyone even asking me to. How much I'd been denying myself in the name of being responsible for people who never wanted that responsibility in the first place. It's April 2025 now. I'm still in Asheville, still working in financial planning, though I've started my own practice focused on helping families build generational wealth, the healthy kind, built on communication and boundaries rather than secrecy and resentment. I got married in September 2023 to someone who understands that love doesn't mean losing yourself in service to others. We're expecting our first daughter in October, and we've already started her college fund. She'll never wonder if she's allowed to dream bigger than her circumstances. She'll never feel guilty for using her talents. She'll never have to choose between loving her family and becoming herself. I still think about that group message sometimes. That moment they asked me to step away. The thumbs up emoji that felt like such a casual dismissal of everything we'd meant to each other. But I don't hold anger anymore. Not toward Tyler, who was struggling with his own financial insecurity and took it out on the person trying to help him. Not toward Melissa, who was grieving her husband and couldn't handle feeling dependent on her much younger niece. Not toward my parents, who loved me but couldn't separate their pride from their need. Because here's what I've learned. Walking away wasn't the punishment they thought they were giving me. It was the gift I didn't know I needed. For years, I'd been carrying the weight of my family's financial security without even realizing how heavy it had become. I'd been so focused on being the good daughter, the responsible one, the family success story, that I'd lost track of where their needs ended and my boundaries began. That November night, when they voted me out, they accidentally gave me permission to put the weight down. They gave me permission to stop managing their choices and consequences. They gave me permission to use my resources and talents for people who wanted to grow, rather than people who resented growth in others. They gave me permission to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial dependency. Most importantly, they gave me permission to love them from a distance, to wish them well without sacrificing my own well-being to ensure their comfort. I still support the family at my convenience, not out of obligation or guilt, but because I choose to when it feels right for me. The last message I got from my family was from Tyler, about 6 months ago. He'd gotten a promotion at work and wanted to let me know he was doing okay. "Thanks for everything you did," he wrote. "I get it now. Why you had to step back, I hope you're happy." I wrote back, "I am, I hope you are too." It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't an invitation back into the old patterns, but it was acknowledgement, understanding. The recognition that love sometimes means letting go. And you know what? That's enough. That's more than enough. It's everything. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to share this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got more incredible revenge stories coming your way.